Hi everyone, Tyler here again. Just to get us started with effective formative assessment with tech tools, I have a brief introduction about this part of the course. Now our overarching question is going to be, why do we use formative assessment? I think we've started to uncover some layers. I think as educators and as former classroom teachers and current classroom teachers, we understand the value of formative ongoing assessment as it is used in the classroom to support the learner's needs and their ongoing improvement and learning. Other things we need to consider, though, when we think about formative assessment is finding that purpose, making a plan, and building a foundation. Um, Part of that building of a foundation, yes, we will use the tech tool. That's kind of the end goal. But we have to build that foundation before we look at these tech tools. So some of the tech tools that we might use in this classroom and some in this online class and some that you've likely have heard of before. I noticed through your survey at the beginning of the course. But some of these tools we're going to look at in depth with a foundation of the Iowa Core and Brightbytes data to solidify the importance of formative assessment and why using these tech tools will be of value to this course and to your classrooms. Some of these tech tools: Edpuzzle, Pear Deck, Kahoot, Flubaroo, Plickers, Formative, Poll Everywhere, Google Apps for Education, which includes Forms, Docs, and Classroom. These are all different tools that we might look at while we're in this course. But the question still remains, so why use formative assessment? Our Brightbytes data, if you are a district that takes the Clarity Survey and you have the Brightbytes data, we can see that currently this is a snapshot of Heartland schools, but this is a snapshot of teachers who administer digital or online assessments to a majority of their students. We're looking at least weekly, monthly, every few months, or never. Now, when we look at this question, I think part of the question is maybe summative assessments. It doesn't indicate whether it's formative or summative. But nonetheless, if we think about how we're using digital assessments with our students, especially when we have a lot of districts that are one-to-one or have many devices per student, this is something that we could improve upon. Another thing, maybe this question is more so towards the formative assessment type of information, but teachers take digital polls in the class. Again, Brightbytes data, I think this is maybe a question that can be expanded upon. But when you think about using digital methods to allow the quantity and quality of feedback available to students and how it should be increased using the Hattie research for that, are we having students take digital polls, or are we having students work with formative assessments, expanding upon the digital polls idea? Are we having students take formative assessments in our class, and how often are they doing it? Again, I think that question maybe could be expanded. That's why I am already taking the liberty of expanding it. But when we think about what a digital poll informs us of in the classroom, can we expand that to formative assessments? And can we improve these numbers so we are seeing more digital methods of getting that feedback and making that feedback available to students? Another foundational piece is the Iowa Core. So you can see here when we look at the Iowa Core, and you can take a look at that link if you wish, and you can see what it says about the formative assessment. But one snapshot of that is the intended purpose. We did talk about some of the purpose as far as what that should look like in our survey that I had you do. But also when we look at the intended purpose based on the Iowa Core, to increase students' learning, to adjust instruction, to diagnose students' needs, and to improve the instructional program. A lot of these ideas are intermixing, and they all are focusing on what type of assessment can be used for these learning examples. And then take it a step further, we have all these different ideas, assessment for learning examples, but now how can we take it a step further and use tech tools to help integrate technology in the classroom, but also make sure it's effectively used and it makes us more efficient. As a tutorial, try to keep these tutorials short. I am making these, these are things that I not used to making a lot of them, but to try and make them short and also to make some connections to the work that we're doing here. I do want you to participate in a short discussion. This could be used as a formative assessment. I'm not going to use Padlet in this course. A lot of these tech tools we have all heard of, and we know they're out there. And I think there's a reason why some of them are still around. Padlet, I see being used in multiple ways. I see teachers use it, and I've used it myself in multiple ways. I think it has a lot of value. I'm not going to focus on it in this course, but it is a nice addition and a good way to gather formative assessment data very quickly from your students. There are some caveats with Padlet. I would say the anonymity part of it, maybe it's not as bad with Padlet as it is with maybe like a Today's Meet, but nonetheless you can use Padlet to gain students' responses to questions or to check their understanding or to get a snapshot of where they're at in their learning. So our post-tutorial discussion, I want you to click on this link. That'll take you to our Padlet board. Click on the Padlet board, just double click. You can write your title, so you can write your name there, and then you can write something here as far as your responses to the questions. Hit submit. Nice thing about Padlet, you can add your voice, you can add video, you can add an attachment, you can add images, or you can add some sort of web page. So it is versatile, and it has improved immensely since when I first started using it, when it was Wall-Wisher. But the two questions that I have for you are, one, how have you used formative assessment? So whether you are a former classroom teacher or you're a current classroom teacher, how have you used formative assessment? And what was your intended purpose with using formative assessment? And then the second question is, what have been your best learning examples that coincide with your formative assessment? So what examples could you say were exemplar examples of, yes, the formative assessment worked, and here's why it worked. Here are the type of examples I got from my students from the formative assessment. And then when you think about those learning examples, did you change your instruction? Ideally, we use the formative assessment to drive our instruction. That's the main purpose. So did you do that? How have these learning examples changed your instruction? So if you add those two discussion questions on this link on the Padlet after this quick tutorial, I would appreciate that, and I will be back. Thank you.